So think about the last time you went out for a celebratory dinner, maybe a few drinks with friends. It's a great time, right? But have you ever stopped to think about the huge responsibility that falls on the establishment serving you? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on something that's super important but often invisible: liquor liability.
It's a really simple question, but trust me, the answer is, well, it's complicated. When a customer has had too much to drink and then something awful happens after they leave, who's actually on the hook? Where does that responsibility land? To really get our heads around this, let's just walk through a scenario that, unfortunately, is all too common.
Okay, so to really get why this is such a big deal, we need to look at how a good night can go horribly wrong. Let's imagine a hypothetical situation, something that, sadly, happens more than we'd like to think.
Okay, so picture this. It all starts with a celebration. You know the scene: a great local restaurant, maybe a cool bar. The atmosphere is buzzing, friends are laughing, maybe someone got a promotion or it's a birthday. It's that happy, familiar vibe you find in any city on any given night. So the good times are rolling, the celebration's in full swing, but as the night starts to wind down, one of the patrons, who's had a few drinks, makes that one really bad decision. They decide to drive home.
And then it happens. On the way home, that patron gets into an accident, and now a third party, someone totally innocent, maybe just driving home from their job, is hurt. Their car is a wreck, and just like that, their life is completely turned upside down. See, this isn't just about business anymore. It's about public safety. And this is exactly where that first question we asked becomes so important.
So your first thought is probably, well, the driver is to blame, right? And sure, they are, but legally, it's not that simple. The responsibility can actually stretch all the way back to the establishment that served them the alcohol. So let's dive into the legal reality for these businesses, and we'll use Alberta, Canada as our main example here.
This is where we run into a really important legal concept called strict liability. And what that means, in plain English, is that a bar, a restaurant, any venue really, can be held financially responsible for what an intoxicated customer does, even after they've walked out the door. That is a massive shift in how we think about legal responsibility.
And look, this isn't just some dusty old legal theory. In a place like Alberta, it's actively enforced by a governing body, the Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis Commission, or AGLC. They're the ones setting the rules for anyone who holds a liquor license.
So who actually needs to be concerned about this? Well, the list is way longer than you might think. Of course, you've got your bars and nightclubs, that's a given. But it's also restaurants, event venues, caterers, even liquor stores. The bottom line is, if your business involves selling or serving alcohol, this is absolutely on your radar.
Okay, so with that much risk on the table, we're talking risks that could literally ruin a business. How do they protect themselves? Well, that's where a very specific kind of safety net comes into play. Yeah, think of it exactly like this. It's a financial shield against a potentially catastrophic event. This isn't just, another expense on a spreadsheet. Liquor liability insurance can be the one thing standing between one terrible night and a local business going bankrupt. And here's the kicker. For a lot of these businesses, this insurance isn't even optional. It's often a mandatory condition for getting and keeping a liquor license. Regulators like the AGLC basically say, no insurance, no license. It's really that black and white.
All right, so we keep calling it a financial shield, but what does it actually protect a business from? Let's break down what this kind of policy actually covers.
As you can see, the coverage is pretty comprehensive. We're talking about covering medical bills if someone gets hurt by a patron. It pays for property that gets destroyed. And this one is huge. It covers the legal defense costs, the lawyer fees, the court costs, which can be astronomical. It even helps protect the liquor license itself, which is the absolute lifeblood of the business, and extends that coverage down to the employees who are actually serving the drinks. And just to give you an idea of the stakes, we are not talking about small change. These policies typically have coverage limits anywhere from $1 to $5 million. That alone should tell you just how massive the financial risk can be if something serious happens. Now, it's important to know there are basically two main types of this insurance. You got your commercial liability, which is for the everyday businesses like bars and restaurants, but then you have host liability. This is for those one-time private events. Think about it, a wedding, an office holiday party. Yep, they need this kind of protection too.
So how does a business go about getting this coverage? Well, the whole process is actually a lot more straightforward than you might think. First off, let's talk about cost. What affects the price?
Well, insurance companies look at a few key things. What kind of place is it? A quiet restaurant is very different from a packed nightclub. How much alcohol revenue do they bring in each year? And, of course, what's their claims history like? Have they had issues in the past? All of that gets plugged into an equation to figure out the risk, and that determines the cost.
And the actual process for getting it is pretty simple. Step 1, the business submits its basic information. Then, a broker does the legwork, gathering and comparing quotes from a bunch of different insurers. Step 3, the business gets to review all those personalized options. And finally, they just pick the one that works best and secure their policy. It's designed to be pretty quick and painless because, again, it's a must-have for them to operate.
So when you take a step back and look at the whole thing, you can see what's really going on here. This insurance, it isn't just some policy you buy. It's the foundation of a whole system for managing risk and sharing responsibility. It connects the business, its customers, and the entire community.
And that really leaves us with one final big question to chew on. Is liquor liability just about protecting businesses from going under, or does it do something more? Does having this system of shared responsibility actually encourage safer serving practices, which in turn creates safer communities for all of us? I think the answer is probably a little bit of both.